Salut everyone! In this video, we will be reviewing one of the big 5 mother of all distro out there, Debian. Yes, Debian 13 is going to be released the 9th of August 2025. And this millésime, I'm gonna call it like that, like a good wine, is going to be a banger. Are you ready? Let's get into it. As always, let's start with a little bit of context. And last time I did a challenge on Debian, well, it did not go as good as expected, to say the least. I had a lot of issue with the way like Debian set up Pipewire and Wire Plumber at the time. It was not like, I would say, like ready type of experience out of the box. My hardware was really struggling. The other part was related to the NVIDIA driver. This is the first time I did install a driver on a distro, and they were kind of like half installed. It was such a weird feeling. DLSS was not working, but the driver were installed. It was kind of a mess. I made a full video about it if you want to go back in time and see the state Debian was while I was doing my 30-day challenge with it. I failed it, by the way. I couldn't stay 30 days maining like Debian for my work, and we'll get into that after to see like if this is something I could do with this new release. Long story short, coming from a Debian 12 experience, which was, in my opinion, like not the best with my hardware, what is going to bring this release? And let me tell you, there is a lot of like good in it. I don't want to hype it too much because I am a big fan of Debian. Even if I don't use it on my desktop, I use it more like on all my server type of hardware. I've never been disappointed in it, and it's also one of the distro I follow since it was like created. So I kind of like have love for Debian. But if I try to be more objective, I believe this release is actually one of the best, if not the best. So the first big point is the fact that the display protocol supported out of the box for this release is Wayland. So by default, you will have like the full Wayland experience. And this is a first for the distribution, right? Because before, you were forced into X11. But now, when you install it out of the box, you have Wayland by default ready to go. If you are running one of the most like common DE, like GNOME or KDE, well, you will be propulsed on Wayland at your first boot after the installation, which is, in my opinion, like great. And because of this particular philosophy, like Debian want to be like the stable, reliable, like type of distro, well, they did not ditch totally X11. You can still use it if you want. You don't have to install extra package or try to tinker anything. It's still there. And you're going to be in this position where if you have application or whatever reason, like you need X11, maybe you like it better than Wayland, well, Debian still provide it out of the box after a fresh install. And this, in my opinion, is great. Not like I still believe X11 should still be here, but I do understand like some of you might need it for specific like reason, and it's cool like it's still providing the support out of the box. Now let's talk about the install process, and it was super smooth and fast. I have nothing to say about it. My previous experience was not the best when I did the test of Debian 12, and I can assure you now that the process is way smoother. The installer itself, it's still not for everyone, and not as clear as other distros that use, like for example, Calamares or the Ubuntu installer, which are a little bit more like enjoyable from a UI perspective. The thing is, like the Debian installer still gets the job done. And yes, because I was mentioning Ubuntu, this installation did not break my UEFI partition like the famous like Ubuntu/Meet installer. So I know like it has been fixed, but I need to mention that it never happened with Debian because they don't look like great and fancy, but they get the job done. And this I really appreciate. So now for this specific like review and testing, I did try the KDE basic install. And I was really pleased with the simple theming, almost like vanilla experience out of the box by default. And on the good note, Pipewire and Wire Plumber version were high enough to handle my hardware without any issue. Yes! So if you are in business with Pipewire and you really need it, Debian is going to deliver this time. Debian 13 is the way to go. Regarding the version of the desktop environment, Debian 13 is packaged with KDE Plasma 6.3.6. It is not the latest one, but it would give you access to the most important feature in my opinion. I'm thinking about HDR, I'm thinking about VRR, and all the colorimetry, like fancy stuff you're gonna find on Wayland. This is a win, okay? Like this is so good. And I'm just disappointed by the fact that the freeze, because this is the way it works in the Debian release cycle, they will freeze at a certain version of package and then make sure everything is stable enough. I just wish the freeze would have happened like maybe 1 or 2 weeks after, and KDE would have been in the 6.4 version. You don't have like the latest one, but it's still good in my opinion because it covers all the features which are required for us gamers. So now let's talk about the less good. And the first thing I want to jump into is the GPU driver stack. For the AMD user, you won't be running the latest Mesa Git, okay? And so what it means for you is that if you want to enjoy FSR4, well, it's not going to work out of the box. But the good news, and if you are like a real one, you could take advantage, for example, of Mesa Kizak Fresh package. I'm pretty sure like the Debian user like know what I'm talking about, and also the Ubuntu user there. Installing them via Flatpak or Packstyle for the connoisseur, you should be good. Okay, you're gonna have the latest updated version of the Mesa stack. For the NVIDIA user, it's a little bit more complicated, because the way they did implement the driver and package them into the Debian repo, well, it's not good. Like, let's go straight to the point. It's kind of a shame. You know, I understand that Debian want to stay on top of everything, but after following the wiki for installing the driver, I could not log into Wayland because they were just not properly configured out of the box. I was able to fix it because I have been dealing with the NVIDIA driver for like 4 years now, but I can't believe like the Debian team didn't set up like that properly out of the box. It just sucks, right? So it's kind of like odd that Debian is finally like adopting like Wayland and pushing everything to be Wayland by default, and on the other side, they didn't configure the NVIDIA driver properly for you to boot in a desktop environment after following the wiki to install the driver. It kind of sucks. The other issue is always the same. Debian is not pushing the latest driver. They have their own like path when it comes to like choosing the drivers they want. Right now, I do believe like the production branch, it's at 575, but guess what? Debian is using the version 550. You heard it. 550. So, you know? So here the solution is really like to install the driver directly from the CUDA repo from NVIDIA. The good news there is that the packages are now properly installed, because I had some issue with one of my Debian server running AI stuff on it with the NVIDIA card. But now everything is fixed, everything runs perfectly, and you will have access to all the features. I'm thinking about DLSS. 2 years ago or 1 year and a half ago, when I did try Debian 12, the driver were installed, but I didn't have DLSS available. You had to like pinpoint specific packages for DLSS to run in-game. Now, all the packages are installed properly and you have all the features out of the box if you use the repo from NVIDIA. Really important. So now the real question is about performance, right? Like, could you stay on the 550 versus like using the 575 version of the driver? Well, I run some benchmark and you do need them. I moved from 310 FPS to 345 FPS in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which is a solid like 10.7 improvement. And yes, if you are gaming on Debian 13, you will have to upgrade the GPU driver stack if you want the latest feature or if you want the performance. That's part of the deal. By default, Debian 13 is shipping with a 6.12 LTS kernel. It's not too bad of a kernel, to be fair, but it's still a little bit behind when it comes to performance. And I do recommend upgrading to a custom kernel for making sure you are not leaving any type of performance behind. With a custom kernel and the latest driver, you should be able to reach the same amount of performance you would have, for example, on a CachyOS or Nobara top of distro, right? The only thing is that instead of having glorious role of Peter doing the job for you, you're gonna have to do it yourself. Now, the last point I need to mention for all the gamer and content creator out there is that Debian will still be Debian. Like the way it operates, it's pretty simple. Most of the packages will be old or already old. And this is a plus when it comes to stability because you won't get into like all the issues related to the developing cycle, but it could be a negative for you if this version of the software delivered does not have the feature you want or it's still bugged with your hardware. So here I have a specific like example I want to share with you is the software called Mango HUD. I encountered an issue with it and I couldn't just not read my GPU usage for my 4090. My 4090 is not that of a recent card, right? Mango HUD, I believe the one package with the distro is like 2 years old or 1.5 years old, and this specific like release had an issue with NVIDIA driver, the reading of the GPU usage. So if I was in game, I would have like GPU usage equals 0. And the only way to fix this issue was just to upgrade Mango HUD. Nothing complicated. But this is the type of scenario you're gonna get stuck on, right? Because yes, it's super stable. You don't hit any of the new bug related to all the advance of the software. But on the other side, you're gonna hit some other bugs, one which were like not solved before. This is the type of like contradictory space you're gonna be in with Debian. The other like issue related to content creator out there you could encounter is for OBS. The version in the Debian repo is super old too. You won't have all the latest feature, and if you look at the changelog, I was looking at it during the stream, there is so much update related to this piece of software. I know some of you like are gonna be like, I can't use that. So you have the Flatpak alternative or Packstyle if you want to go really like old school, or you can even compile it yourself. But it had again like a new layer of complexity while using this distro. So guys, how do we conclude this one? I want to get straight to the point and say that this Debian 13 is, in my opinion, the best release to date. I think the timing for the freeze could have been maybe a little bit better, especially for KDE, but overall, you're gonna be in for a treat, especially when it comes to gaming. Because for gaming, you're gonna have a little bit of work to make sure, like, you know, like the kernel is up to date, and the drivers are correctly installed and up to date too. But after that, you're gonna be solid. Like the performance was there after playing with this. If you are just gaming, you're gonna have a lot of fun. Debian is a mother distro, so it requires a little bit of work anyways out of the box. I'm a bit in love with it, so I don't know if this conclusion is fairly objective. I'm trying to do my best to stay objective. You have to understand, like, this is my kind of like love distribution. I've been using it since almost day one. I've been using it on all my servers for like 25 years. I don't even know. Like, Debian is solid and it will never disappoint. But there is some case scenario, for example, if you are a content creator like me and you need the latest like version of the software to present it or to compare it, like you need everything to be like rolling edge. Well, Debian is not for you. You can push it there, but it requires more work, right? It's logical, like the base is stable. However, you game, you want to have like a desktop, a distro, which is like solid. When I say solid, it's like all packages. Release cycle slow. You don't have to update every 30 minutes to get the latest feature, right? Like it's just there. And the fact that from a technical approach, they bring the big, like I would say, like differentiator point right now, which is like Wayland, and everything that come with it, like Pipewire, Wire Plumber, all the stuff that's gonna make the gaming experience better, out of the box, is just awesome. So to me, it's a win. Debian 13, I'm gonna repeat myself, is, in my opinion, the best release to date when it comes to gaming. And you know, at the beginning of the conclusion, I was telling you, yeah, it's hard for me. It's hard for me because deep down, I wanna stop using CachyOS and use Debian. But when I look at the amount of work required for me, like, you know, to prepare it and maintain it versus CachyOS for my usage, right? Like editing almost every day, recording with OBS, it's just like too much work. But this is just personal, right? I believe that a lot of you guys are just going to set up the kernel, latest one, set up the latest like GPU driver, and it's gonna be a smooth sailing from now on. The last point I want to mention in this conclusion is related to the release cycle of Debian. We were having this discussion with the chat during my benchmarking session. I'm going to put the link in the description if you want to see all the tests I made on this Debian 13. It was actually very fun. I cracked it at the end, but that's another subject. But the idea is that when those releases are out, everybody is hyped. And then it starts to go down with time because it becomes outdated. And all the new features are actually getting pushed on the distro, which are having like a cycle which is faster. I'm thinking about Fedora, Arch, etc., which are just like faster to release new like feature within their software. And Debian kind of like lose its appeal. And on this specific release, I believe it won't be the case. We are at a point now where I don't see anything really new making you like, you know, be in a position where you are like, hey, my Debian is outdated. I'm gonna repeat myself, but if you have the GPU driver stack like up to date, if you have the latest kernel optimized, you're gonna be in a spot where Debian is actually super good. It will just require like extra work for you to constantly update all the packages around, but I don't see anything like crazy new coming in the next 2 years. So I might be totally wrong, and this might not be super objective, because again, I'm loving this distro, but I don't see it happening. So my recommendation will be, you know, like when I try, for example, like the next release of Mint, to see where Debian actually is versus Mint. And I'm pretty sure it won't be that far. And in the coming months, and I'm saying like even in the coming years, Debian might be in a really, in my opinion, like a better position to be used on desktop. Just my take, okay? So guys, thank you again for watching the video. Don't forget to put a comment below. Like, let me know what you think about this release of Debian. I personally think it's a banger. I'm gonna say it again. It is a banger. Also, don't forget to put a thumbs up. If you want to support the channel financially, you are more than welcome. You have Patreon, YouTube membership, direct PayPal donation. I want to thank all the members of La Crème de la Crème Club who have been like supporting me financially through those channels. You guys are the best. Thank you very much, and see you in the next one. Bisous, bisous.